Inspire View series. My name is Cherrise Boucher of CherriseBoucher.com, and I'm a transformational life coach and energy healer. I felt really inspired to put this interview series together this year because I feel it's so massively, really massively important for everybody to do something that makes their heart sing and that they're passionate about. Because when you weave something like that into your life that really gets those fires going and everything and excites you, your soul thanks you for listening, and you see the benefits in so many areas of your life. The inspiring people that I introduce you to in this series are just like you. They've overcome obstacles, they've experienced life in all its aspects, and they've incorporated their passions into their lives. They'll share some insights and tips they've found most useful to them throughout their lives and that have helped them to get to where they are now. I'm so glad you're joining me on this journey to nurture the spark that feeds the fire of your passion. Today, I'm honored to introduce you to Gabrielle Bergan, an author and speaker who is originally from Australia but now lives in Norway. Her first book, Return to My Soul, A True Story, was published in 2014, and it tells a story of a powerful spiritual journey that she embarked upon when her marriage broke down in 1999. Her experience has changed her. She has decided to devote the rest of her life to sharing her story and all that she's learned in hope that it will inspire and help others. In her previous life, she was a general nurse, and she has a diploma in psychiatric nursing and a master's degree in health promotion. She also worked as a researcher and lecturer at Bergen University and Bergen University College. Welcome, Gabrielle. Thank you so much for being here with me.
Hi, Cherrise. Thank you for inviting me to be part of your Inspire View series. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, it's so lovely that we're finally connecting. We've been chatting for a while, so it's good to see you in person.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
And so share a little bit about the journey that led you to becoming an author and speaker, because it's very different from nursing, which is your background.
Yes, it is. My journey began with the breakdown of my marriage in 1999. I was 48 years old at the time. I grew up in a family where the relationships were unhealthy, and as a child I lost contact with the real me, which I always thought of as being my life force. So for most of my life, my greatest wish was to find the real me. When my marriage fell apart, I went through a very dramatic and powerful process that lasted several years. I cracked open inside and I fell into a deep, dark place that I can only describe as hell. Then in 2002, something beautiful, peaceful, and incredibly powerful emerged. And it was the experience of pure awareness and light. It was the real me. It was my soul. It wasn't a one-off experience. A permanent change took place in me. And since then, I've been learning how to live from my soul instead of living from my mind or my ego. This experience has been life-changing for me, and I want to share my story with others. I want people to know about the beauty and the peace and the power that lie deep within them. So in 2011, I quit my job as a researcher and lecturer, and I wrote the book, Return to My Soul, to share my experience, which describes my experience in detail. So now I'm a full-time author and speaker. I've started working on the second book. I give a talk here in Norway called An Inner Journey, where I take the audience through a short version of my story. And I also give a workshop where I teach people how to connect with and live from the soul. In addition, I also offer individual spiritual mentoring. So that's a short version of my story and what brings me here today.
Yeah, Gabrielle gifted me with a copy of her book, and I read it in a very quick period of time because it was a page turner, I have to say. So I encourage everybody to pick that up, and we'll talk about that more. But I want to say how brave I think it is of you to share such a really raw, vulnerable experience from your entire life, really, because it starts at birth and continues on until the miraculous end of your book. And I'm sure book 2 is going to continue on into that. But it's such a powerful story that I think so many people can relate to. with kind of a surprise journey or outcome of this journey that is, to me, after having read it, was different than other stories that I've heard. It wasn't what I expected. So maybe you could share a little insight into that, because I think it's so powerful, and that you're doing this, that you're into this like full time. This is your journey now, to share this with other people and to help them move along through probably similar experiences too.
Well, thank you for your lovely words. It's been a very profound experience to me, and it's taken me a long time to understand what happened when I was going through this process. I was in chaos and I really didn't know what was happening, and the part that I describe in the end, it's taken me a long time to understand it, and it's taken me even longer to be able to talk about it. But now I've come to a point in my life, this is what I want to do. I feel that what I experienced, it was for me, but it wasn't just for me. It was a story or an experience that is for other people too. So it's very important for me to share it. And I'm sharing it, trying to share it in different ways, by writing the book, by speaking, by giving workshops and teaching. So I've learned a lot during this process, and I want to teach also what I've learned about spirituality and what I call the soul, which can also be called God or love or divine nature. It doesn't matter what terms we use, it's the same thing. But I've learned a lot about this state that some people call pure awareness, or the power. And so I'm devoting the rest of my life to doing this as much as I can, and to not just here in Norway, but I want to reach out to people internationally as well, because I think many people have experiences similar to mine, or might even have a glimpse of it, and don't really understand what it is, and don't know what to do with it, what to make of it, how to use it, how to build on it. And I feel I can help people with that, because I've learned a lot during my process, which has also continued after what I've written in the book. So
right, because it wasn't a one-off experience that maybe some people have. You've managed to kind of, I don't know if the right word is harness it, but develop it more, I guess, the experience that you had after this very, I hate to say dark night of the soul, because it feels like an overused phrase, but that's really kind of what you experienced, and that you share in your book. I mean, this was years of depression and being in that place, which the way you describe it was so powerful for people who even don't know it personally. You could really connect with that place where you were at. I love the way you really put that into words.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. And that's part of the challenge too about writing about something like this, because, it's beyond words. and trying to find a form of language that can communicate it as accurately as possible. So I've worked really hard at finding words that fit my experience as closely as possible. And I try not to use other people's words. It's been important for me to keep my own words, my own way of expressing it and communicating it, to keep it, genuine as my story.
Yeah, and I think that's what made it so relatable, is that it's not like a textbook, or something like that. It's very, very personal, and it's the way you share it is very deep and like inside your own head about how you experienced it. So when you get to the end, which is not the same traditional kind of or typical experience that like I said before, that I was expecting it to be, it was very different than what I've heard, and very poignant, deep. I'm not sure I'm expressing it the right way.
Thank you.
But your experience and actually connecting with your soul, could you just share a smidgen of, I don't want to ruin the book, but a smidgen of that for people who are sitting here probably going, what the hell is she talking about?
Yeah. Well, thank you. As I said, it means a lot to me that you experience it in that way, because that's what I want to do. I'm hoping, I'm writing from there, so I'm hoping that, you know, I'm trying to communicate my experience so other people will feel it. And it's not a head thing. We can't understand this with our head, but we can understand it from inside, because it's something that we, you know, it's what we all are. So
exactly, it's more of a heartfelt.
Yeah, and that you express it in the way you do makes me very happy, because then I know that you understand what I'm communicating.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that I read it that way. I read it the right way. You wrote it the right way. We're good.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot to me. That means a lot to me.
So when you're, you say you're speaking, you do speaking engagements about your experience, and is there something that you kind of walk people through, or do people who mostly go to your events have this similar experience already, or is this kind of new to them?
Well, I've given the talk to several places. I live in Bergen in Norway, and we have a literature house where they are having talks and seminars all the time. And so I've given my talk there many times, and I don't really know who the people are who come. And I give the talk. It's a 1.5 hour talk. So the first 3/4 of an hour, I take the audience through a short version of my story, and I do it in such a way so that people can see how all the events in my life hang together. They're all connected. How each event has been part of a process that's brought me to where I am today. Because I want them to relate that to their own lives as well. And because I think it will give them meaning when they're going through difficult phases. But what I've found is that and then the other half is question and discussion. And it's always the question and discussions is a fantastic time, because people, you know, people start, because I'm open, people open up and they tell me things they haven't told other people, which is wonderful. And I'm finding that lots of people telling me about their experiences, they've experienced a bit of this or a bit of that, and they know what I'm talking about, which is wonderful for me. And then we have a discussion about it. Even people who seem skeptical at the start and say, I don't understand this, they start asking questions too, and they become interested. So I think I'm connecting with something inside that people have a need to experience, but don't go there, don't talk about it. There's too much happening in their daily lives to even think about it, be aware of it. And also, you know, it's difficult to talk about such deep things. People often keep these experiences to themselves. So I feel I'm giving people the opportunity to open up and share experiences that they don't otherwise do. And that's very valuable. And it's very, you know, I learn a lot too in those discussions.
I'm sure you do.
It's a great interaction. Yeah.
Right. Then you know you're not the only one.
No. And they know they're not the only one. You know, when they hear my story too, they know that, okay, she's experienced that. So, and she, you know, she's okay. So it's what I want to do is show that these experiences aren't something out there in the sky. I want to bring it down to where people are. It's within us all, and it's part of everyday life. It's normal, not something that's different or special, alternative. It's normal.
Right. And culturally, we kind of touched on that before we started the interview, actually. But you find that in different parts of the world, this is more freely expressed, and these ideas are exchanged more openly. And so what are you experiencing in Norway? Have you done any of these talks in Australia? I know you don't live there now. But
no, I haven't.
Only in Norway.
Yeah, only in Norway. You know, I know that in the United States, you're very, you know, these things are very, you know, people talk about them openly. It's very accepted. You know, it's just probably a normal part of human experience. In Australia, maybe not as much as in the States, but you know, Australia's also, a lot of people very interested in spirituality and talk about it. Here in Norway, hasn't been the case. People tell me that to talk about these things is, you know, you don't talk about them. There's associations with, it's got to do with Norwegian culture and history. So it's it's a bit spooky in a way to talk about spirituality. And the term itself, they have a Norwegian word, åndelighet, which is not quite the same as spirituality, but I use the word spirituality to show that I'm not talking about åndelighet, because åndelighet is more religious experience, and I'm not a religious person. I'm just an ordinary person. I'm nothing. I'm not associated with anything, and that's also part of my message, to show that. So, but people tell me here that to use the word spirituality makes it a bit difficult for myself when I'm talking about it, because people have associations that aren't, it's a bit tricky.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that the people themselves, even though they don't talk about it, they have these experiences and don't know what to do with it, don't talk about it, and but there's a need for it. So, and a lot more people are becoming interested in spirituality, in yoga, meditation, etc., channeling, and all sorts, all the things in the alternative area is starting to flourish here. So I think the timing is right for me to come with my story and to share what I've learned. And what surprised me, I was very unsure of how my story would be received. I started giving my talk in September last year, and I really didn't know what people would think or how they would respond. And the response was fantastic, which has really been encouraging for me. So I feel that I'm doing something, hopefully contributing in a way that I feel is important, just to open up so that people can get in touch with their spiritual side, and also it becomes accepted to talk about it. It's not something that's alternative or something to be wary of or skeptical of, or it's normal. And we have a Norwegian princess who works with angels. I don't know if you've heard Princess Martha Louisa. She has an angel school. So that's, spirituality has been on the agenda.
Right.
I'm not the only one working with it. So.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's really good. And, it's just a process. Things take time, and it hasn't been, it's a new thing to be talking about in Norwegian society, but I think things are changing so much so that it will become more commonplace. I think it's time.
You're going to start a whole trend, and then you're going to be the most sought after person in Norway.
Well, it's such a beautiful country, Norway. It's such a beautiful country, such beautiful people, and it's been a great place for me to live. And it's also a way of, giving back. Something valuable too is a contribution. So.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, and I think I love your story, and that you're not from there, but you fell in love with Norway and the people, and you totally immersed yourself in that, really. And I think that's a big thing too, just in talking about leaps of faith. I mean, that's a whole different culture than what you're used to, and you've been there for 20 some odd years now overall. And like you said, that you think Norwegian, so English is not your first language anymore, really.
No.
That's so interesting. So your decision to leave nursing and the research, did you just do that in one fell swoop? Like, you just felt inspired and you just took this massive leap to stop doing that and just pursue writing your book and then speaking about that?
That was a process also in itself, because I had the book with me for some years. I wanted to share my story. And I was studying, doing the master's degree, and then I was working as a researcher, and which I enjoyed doing. But I think also it's been a question of, like, that leap. It was an enormous change, as I said, occurred in me. So to take that leap and to devote myself to writing a book and to sharing my story was a big step for me to take, because I'd always worked as a nurse, psychiatric nurse, and a researcher. They're things that people understand. They're concrete. They're relatable. It's fine. It's acceptable in the society.
Right.
But to take a step out of all that, leave all that behind, and to write and speak about something as abstract as spirituality, and in a personal way as well. That was an enormous step for me to take. It was totally new, and I just had no idea how it would go. And to do that, I also had to open myself up, share my story, bare my soul. You know,
yeah, you did. You
that
did.
was very important. Yeah, I couldn't have done it otherwise. So it's been a process working in me all the time, taking me to that step. And then in 2011, I just felt that the time had come. I wanted to do it. I was 60 years old, and I thought, if I'm going to do this, I've got to do it now, and I have to do it full time. It just seemed a natural progression. And so when the time came to start writing the book, it was the end of May 2011. I was very ready, and it's just sort of gone from there.
Yeah, it is. I see a lot more, at least here in the States, where Eastern and Western medicine are starting to combine. So it's not such a, in spirituality, it's much more accepted. And I think that's fantastic because, when you're in a healing process, I think it's important to take all of it, and not just treat it as one single little piece.
Yeah.
So in Norway, I assume it's still fairly separate, since you say you're talking about spirituality is still kind of new over there. So coming from the nursing and the very practical scientific side of it into what you're talking about and teaching others now must have been, some people must have said, what the heck is happening to Gabrielle? Right?
Well, my friends know me well. They know about my story and they've followed me along the way. So they've supported me really well. That's
good. So it wasn't a big, shock.
Yeah, and it's as I said, it was taking that step from something that's very an accepted part of society. Working as a nurse and a researcher, they're very well accepted things, and then to go out and do something totally different in the way that I've done it. It's a big process. It was a big step. But I don't think we do things until we're ready to do them, and I think that I've for a long time been working through the process whereby I came to a point where I was ready to do it. And I was writing before I started writing the book. I'd written a lot because my story doesn't end with the ending of the book. I write what happened in detail, and then there's been the process of, I had to learn. An important part of the process for me has been to learn to live from the soul. Like, it wasn't just that experience and then it disappears and I go back to my life again. This is my life, and I want to learn to live from the inside, from this beautiful place of peace and beauty and power. I don't want to live from my head anymore. There's an enormous difference between living from the head, the intellect, the mind, and living from what I call the soul. And I want to learn how to do that. And it's also, for me, an important way of honouring the experience, because the experience was so profound. It's my way of honouring that experience by learning to live from there and to share that with others so that others can also experience that. And I think that's why I went through the process too. So, that's been an ongoing process as well. And during that process, I've learned a lot too about the mind, how it works, and about the soul and what it is, and what it brings to our life, how it enriches our lives and helps us in so many ways.
Right.
It's a magnificent thing.
I love how in the book, you describe it, kind of made me feel like a switch, like turn your brain off so that you could connect with your soul that was at the center of you. But then when the switch kind of automatically flips back onto your brain, then that connection was lost.
Yeah.
So I assume you've practiced a lot of this, brain to soul and heart. practice. That's how I kind of imaged it, was like a little switch when I was reading it. Switch on, switch off, switch on, switch on.
Yeah, that was really amazing for me to experience, because I felt I went backwards and forwards like I switched on off a light switch, and I had no control over that process in a way. And that's when the learning really started, about the switching between the one and the other. And I think that's what we do. We don't realise that's what we do. So I've learned an awful lot about that process and what it is that takes us away. But, just Norway is such a beautiful country. We have beautiful nature. Lots of Norwegians. Most Norwegians walk in the mountains or go walking, or have summer houses by the beach, but not by the lakes and by the sea. So the natural surroundings are fantastic and very conducive to getting in touch with your soul, because of the beauty we're surrounded by, and the peace and the power in the mountains is so enormous. So people are often, I think, much more than they are aware of, in contact with this part of themselves. So it's understanding that, going backwards and forwards between the two, and learning what it is that takes us away from, when we're first here, what is it that takes us away from there back to the mind. And it's fear.
Right.
So learning that and understanding how it operates within yourself, I think, is very important, because it means that when we understand that, we're more able to not only experience being here, but to stay there for longer periods. And that's when we experience the benefits of it, of the soul, of being where we are, who we are,
right,
where we are in ourselves, coming from that place.
Sounds like you should be doing retreats in Norway.
Thank you. And
because just the surrounding, how you describe the area and how it seems so easy to connect, with the beautiful surroundings that you have, that you could develop this into like a 2 or 3 day retreat.
I'm glad you said that, because I gave a workshop on Saturday and the Saturday before, and one of the women there suggested the same thing. This will be really good to have a retreat doing this, because then you've got so I've been thinking about
that's 2 people,
So I'm going to work on that.
That's the universe.
Because I don't think you can just really I'm doing this in a workshop for 4 hours the first one and 5 the second, and really, in a way, it's not the right format for doing it, because you're there for those hours and you're into this, and then you go home and there's no direct follow-up. There's another week to the next one. So at a retreat, you'd have time to take in, discuss and talk about it and reflect and do it together in a group and share in beautiful surroundings. I think that would be much more valuable than doing it in the way I've been doing it at the moment. But yeah, definitely.
I agree. It feels really immersive. It feels like you need that time to immerse in that for a good solid period of time, and not, like you said, you break away, you do 4 hours, you break away, you go home, back to life. And then you come back and you do another 5 hours, and you go home and you go back to life.
And that could be a shock.
So it would be great to just sit with it for 2 or 3 days and really communicate with other people who are going through it and sharing. I think that would be amazing. I might have to travel to Norway at some point.
You're very welcome to come to Norway to a retreat with me.
Yes, I will. I'll put that on my dream jar thing, where I've got pictures of places I want to go and things I want to do.
That would be wonderful, Cherrise.
We'll let the universe know. We'll put it out there today. I'm going to Norway to your retreat. There we go. Now it's said, it's recorded and everything. Everybody who listens to it's going to hear this. I can't take it back.
Wonderful. Great.
That's fantastic. So, so you're working on a second book. Is this a continuation of the first? Or something completely separate?
Yeah, it's a continuation of the first book.
Awesome. You have to make sure to, we'll post it. And how long are you thinking? Is it like far away, or is it?
I have a good second draft at the moment, so I need to do a lot more work.
Well, good.
And then I have another book too that I want to write that I where I want to just compile all that I've learnt, kind of, yeah, like a guide maybe, or just where, so I've written a lot of, I write everywhere, you know, things come, and during my process of learning how to live from inside as opposed to living from my head, I see things, understand things, so I write it down. So I've got I've got written material in books, on my computer, on bits of paper, and I have to bring it all together. So it'd be a big job, but I want to put it all together. So it's also another way of helping people. People can read it and learn what they can do in their lives to connect here and to live from here also.
Yeah, that sounds really like that would be a very powerful tool to have. And
Yeah.
also, I wanted to ask you, because you're mentioning how much you write, your story, do you just have like a massively photographic memory? Because the way you write with the detail, and for things that even happened when you were a child, did this all just like flow back through you, or have you always kind of been a journaler or a writer where you refer back to things that you wrote a long, long time ago?
I haven't been a journaler. I have written a bit here and there, but I think it's because I've had my story with me for so long. Like going back to my childhood, the dynamics of my family were very difficult, and it affected me, and is the reason why, as I said, I lost contact with the real me. And so my big goal in life was to find that real me. And I read a book by a German psychoanalyst called Karen Horney. It's called Self-Analysis. I don't know if you've heard of her and her book.
But it sounds interesting.
And it really, made a very strong impression on me, because she writes in that book that everyone has an inner core, a real self, and that we can, and then the potential in the real self can be realized. When I read that, I was so excited about this idea. So I started using her methods of self-reflection and trying to understand myself in the context of my family and my thoughts and feelings, etc., so I could find my real self. So from a very early age, I learned the art of self-reflection. So understanding everything, and I tried to see and understand everything in the context of my family. And so I worked with that for a long time. So in a way, what happened to me as a child, those details, I've had them with me in trying to understand myself and trying to find my real self, thinking that if I do this self-reflection, I will find the real me. I learned a lot about myself, which I'm really glad for. And it was an important part of the process, but it wasn't what helped me. I don't think, not in itself. It wasn't in itself what helped me to get inside, contact inside. But it was a very important process. So I think because I've had such a degree of self-knowledge related to my childhood, that I've carried it with me.
Right.
So the details really, and I'm very aware of what it was in the family that was difficult for me. And also I learned a lot, later on in life. When I went through this process, I learned a lot as well. So it really wasn't difficult putting it together. The structure wasn't difficult. I knew how that would all fit in. But then writing the contents was a lot of work. And it was a lot of work for several reasons, because I chose to write in English. It's natural for me to write in English, and I live in Norway and speak Norwegian most of the time. So I had to, in a way, reclaim my language, not just as a speaker, but I was going to be a writer, so I had to write well. So I had to go back and, in a way, polish very much my own language and relearn things, grammar and pronunciation, where the commas go, that sort of stuff. And then, because I worked as a researcher and wrote research articles, and as a researcher you write very objectively, and here I am writing a personal story, so I had to get rid of all those objective terms and expressions, and then come from here and write personally. And then there was the emotional part, because to write it I had to go back and relive things, experiences, and the painful experiences, and that also was difficult at times. Sometimes I'd cry and have to just ring someone or go for a walk. I just get up from my computer and leave because it was too difficult. So there's been that process as well. And also during the process, my mother died, my brother died. I took 3 years to write the book. My father died in 2003. I started the book in May 2011. June 2011, my mother died suddenly, and I didn't make it to Australia to be with her. I went for the funeral, and a year later, my brother rang to say he had cancer, and he died a year after that. So all that 13 months, I followed him through the cancer while I was writing the book, and I was with him in Australia when he died, which I was very glad of. So, you know, during the course of writing the book, I lost both my mother and my brother as well. So there was just a lot of levels to the writing of the book.
Right. That's very.
But you know, it was an extremely rewarding process, and during the writing of it too, I was able to see things that I thought I understood sometimes in a different light or a better light or a new light, and able to let things go more, and so that also helped.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on.
Those are very emotional, things. Your father had already passed, but then to be trying to write this whole story and then experience the passing of two more family members during that. I think that would have thrown me off track altogether.
Yeah, you know, and I wonder, why did that happen? Why? I don't know. I won't know the answer, but it just seems strange to me that I'm writing about my family, and my mother dies, and my brother dies. It was like, to me, I felt like when I finished the book and I published it, it felt like it was the end of a long chapter. It was like closing a door on something that had been very difficult for all of us. It wasn't just, you know, the family relationship was very difficult for my brother and for my parents. So it was like, you know, this whole long process has gone on, and with the book, end of the book, it was like finishing that chapter.
Yeah.
So it was very special it was very strange to experience that.
Yeah, very. It's a very powerful process, I'm sure, because it does seem like that, finishing the book and ending that chapter. Seems like a lot of healing would happen during that period.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something else I feel too. You know, my parents, my brother, they've all played an important role. It's like, you know, they've been so important for me and my process. I wouldn't be here if things hadn't been as they were. Which is also another message that I want to convey, that no matter, there's two messages in that, no matter how terrible something is, it's possible to come through and discover something beautiful and powerful at the other end, that's there for everybody. But also that the difficult things that happen in our lives happen for a reason. You're part of something greater that we don't necessarily see. So I'm very grateful, despite it being difficult, I'm very grateful for the process I went through, because I wouldn't have arrived where I am now if it hadn't been for, you know, the difficult parts.
Right. And I think that's a really important message, because so many people, I mean, probably everybody goes through those moments, and sadly, some people, you know, choose not to continue to go through those moments. But I think it's important to know that there is something beautiful at the end of it. And like you, now you sharing this experience and what you've learned from it is going to help so many other people, that it's a nice reminder to know that you wouldn't be where you are now had you not gone through what you went through, and you wouldn't probably be able to help those others to go through the same or similar things.
Yeah. Yes, I hope so. I really hope that we'll help other people in many ways.
So you've got a free offer, and I also want everybody to know how they can get your book, and then I'll share how people can keep in touch and all that good stuff. So go ahead and tell me about the offer that you have for the people who watch this interview.
Well, I'd like to offer a 50-minute free spiritual mentoring session.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you'll guide people. How would they get in touch with you? And then just share a little bit about maybe if someone's wondering if this is something for them.
Yes, I think you do have I have a website, www.gabriellebergan.com, and the email address is info@gabriellebergan.com.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter.
Awesome. And you're in the Inspire View Series Facebook group that I just recently created to try to put all my guests in a spot and then to share, because I want everybody who's a guest in my series to share. And then I'm going to also have probably a set day where other people who join the group can also share things that they're working on. I want it to be a very inspirational forum, because we all need it. You know, there are high days and low days. So it's nice to have a place to connect and know that people understand where you're coming from.
I think it's a brilliant idea that you're doing that. I'm very honored to be part of that group.
Oh, I'm excited that you're there. I'm excited that everybody's there. So I've set myself a goal for a number of people in the group by the end of November to be 100. So I put that out there too on Facebook someplace yesterday. So I'm encouraging people to share the group and get people in there by the end. So I just started it on November 1st. So I'm really encouraging that. And we're co-creating. I've got no set format yet or how it's going to roll, but I want everybody to definitely participate and share gifts, share offers that they're doing, share about your retreat that will be coming up at some point in time.
Yeah. Get that organized.
That's right. So all of Gabrielle's information will be on my website at CherriseBoucher.com under the Inspire View Series tab. So the video will be there, an MP3 version will be there, and a link to your gift. I'll have it linked to your website so people can email you about that. That's a fantastic offer. 50 minutes, you can get a lot done in that period of time. Some insight. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for our little glitches that nobody else saw, but we did. And we did it. We got through it. So.
We did. Thank you so much for having me. It was really great to be here, and I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, and your book. So where can people get the book? On your website too?
The book is on Amazon.
Okay. I'll put a link to that too.
A print book and an ebook.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll put a link to that as well so that people can easily access where that is, because it is fantastic. I highly recommend everybody reading it. It's a quick read. It's a page turner because you keep wanting to know what happens next. So, and it's a beautiful story, beautiful and very vulnerable, but it's a wonderful share. And for anybody who writes like that, my hat's off to you and to everybody, because I don't know that I could bear myself to that extent, but maybe someday I will. Who knows?
I think so. I think, one doesn't know what one's going to do unless one's in that situation. And I'm sure you would.
Yeah, I might, it might come to a point. There's definitely things that would probably be shareable for others who go through similar situations in life. So who knows? I've never had it on my radar to be an author, but you never know. Or a speaker for that matter. Never. But
that's right. Yeah.
Or shoot, even doing an interview series, that was not something popped in my head like last summer. So that was never on my radar either. So you never know what comes up.
Here you are doing it, and it's great.
Yeah, thank you.
I think what you're doing is so important. I think it's just very important, because we need to hear other people's stories. It's not just my story, but everyone has a story, and all the stories are important, and we can learn from other people's stories and also know that we're not alone with our own experience. Right. It's the value of it, so I think what you're doing is wonderful, and it's going to help a lot of people too.
Thank you. Yes, I feel like it really connects us, because everybody's from different parts of the world, but our hearts are the same, right? I mean, we go through the same things, we feel the same things, we want the same things, and it's nice to share that space with somebody who you can connect with. So that's why I like to do these.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's such a pleasure being here. Thank you so much again.
Oh, thank you so much. We shall talk again soon. Thank you,
I look
Gabrielle.
forward to that. Bye-bye.
Bye.